This story is just unbelievable. And let me preface it by saying that as gruesome as what happened in Oklahoma was last night, and as sort of shocking the events that led up to what happened in Oklahoma last night, my feeling is that we should not be empowering the state to, in cold blood, in the name of criminal punishment, to kill people. And I tweeted something, or I think I retweeted something to the effect of that last night. And people were like, yeah, but what? That the capital punishment was barbaric. And some conservatives tweeted back at me, yeah, but what was it that the murderers did? And what the murderers did was also barbaric. And that's why they're in jail and they're criminals. And we call them murderers. And that's exactly why we should not, as a society, say that there is justification to kill someone That's the reason why we don't do it. Because once you make that argument can be adopted by anybody, can't it? It's just a question of whether or not the state is the only arbiter as to whether or not it's okay to kill. So with that said, and on the day, a report by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that at least 4.1% of all defendants sentenced to death in the U.S. are innocent. And that it's more than likely that we have killed innocent people via capital punishment in this country, and will continue to do so. A botched execution taking place in Oklahoma using a new drug combination left one of two inmates who were scheduled to be killed writhing and clenching his teeth on the gurney for 10 minutes after the new lethal injection combination was administered. 3 minutes later, he begins breathing heavily now. So he was unconscious for 10 minutes. 3 minutes later, he begins breathing heavily, writhing, clenching his teeth, straining to lift his head off the pillow. Apparently, they shut the blinds so that those in the viewing gallery who wanted to watch the guy die in the first place were spared from having to watch how much pain the guy went through until he had a heart attack and actually died. Guy's name was Clayton Lockett. He was convicted of horrible murders, just like the other man scheduled, Charles Warner, I guess, to die. But that's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't matter. What we do as a state in that regard, all you're going to argue as to whether or not it reaches the point in which we should kill? No, I don't think that we should kill. So it's not relevant to me in this point. So the second man's execution was stayed for 14 days by the governor of Oklahoma. And the thing that makes it absolutely disgusting and hypocritical in many respects. Mary Fallin, I should say, the Oklahoma governor, in staying the execution, as she ordered the state's Department of Corrections to conduct a, quote, full review of Oklahoma's execution procedures to determine what happened and why during this evening's execution, is that these two men's executions had been stayed 9 days ago, so that by the Oklahoma Supreme Court, so that the justices could evaluate the legality of the state's injection secrecy law, which did not allow prisoners and their attorneys to see basic information about the drugs used in lethal injections. In other words, there's secrecy shrouding what injections they're going to use. So the Oklahoma Supreme Court on April 21st stays the executions so that people can investigate what drugs are going to be used. Hours after the Oklahoma Supreme Court stays the execution, that same governor, Mary Fallin, says that the executive branch would not honor the judicial stay preventing the executions because she claims it was outside their constitutional authority, that the authority actually should lie in the criminal court, the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. The day after Governor Fallin said, we're not going to recognize what the Oklahoma State Supreme Court says, a Republican state lawmaker, Representative Mike Christian, introduced impeachment proceedings against the 5 state Supreme Court justices who had voted for the stays of execution. And then the Oklahoma Supreme Court, just caving to the political pressure, reversed itself 2 days after its stay, when the 5 justices responsible for that stay declared that the injection secrecy law was in fact constitutional. So Lockett and Charles Warner's execution proceeded. Lockett was strapped down to this gurney. He was injected with something that no one knew what it was. It was a new cocktail to kill him. It knocked him unconscious for 10 minutes. He then began writhing in pain. Those in the viewing gallery were protected from seeing it. And then the man had a heart attack and died. Frankly, that videotape should be played over and over again for people. If we're going to kill people like that, let everybody see what is done with their taxpayer dollars. Unbelievable.